to this evening's gala celebrating the heroism and the courage of the women of South and Southern Africa. They've always been constant in their commitment to the liberation of people in struggle. I'm honored that I was asked to be a part of this.
Mr. Harry Belafonte, thank you for that warm and visionary welcome. You have inspired and played such a leading role in the movement to end apartheid and have done so much to advance racial, economic, and gender justice. Hi everybody, I'm Makon Zovu, and as the Shared Interest MC tonight, I want to thank you all for joining us in this celebration of the power of women in Southern Africa. Now, as a Zimbabwean woman myself, I know a thing or two about that. Now, tonight, we honor two outstanding women leaders and celebrate women's leading roles in the front lines of health, development, communications, and movement building in Southern Africa. We're going to hear from Stan Bergman, Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka, and Graça Machel. We're also going to pay tribute to Jennifer Davis, who devoted her life to the struggle and justice for equality in the region and has taught us so much for so long as a partner, mentor, and friend. This virtual gala enables us to welcome friends and supporters from around the country and across the globe. It's a first for all of us, but we're pivoting, right? And we are streaming this program right now, live on Facebook. So please feel free to reach out to others who might want to join in on the fun. You're also going to have opportunities during the program to make direct contributions by clicking the embedded link below or by visiting www.sharedinterest.org/donate. When the spirit moves you, please do so. What you're going to be doing is supporting the outstanding work you will get a taste of this evening. To start us off right, we're going to prepare to welcome the chair and a founding member of Shared Interest's board of directors, Tim Smith. Tim is the Senior Vice President of Walden Asset Management, a guru of the socially responsible investment movement, and a staunch campaigner for justice and equality in Southern Africa for most of his adult life. But first, here's a video clip. This one comes to us from Shared Interest. This is a look at their early history and work with their pioneering partners through the Small Enterprise Foundation. Have a look.
In 1994, when South Africa became a democracy and elected Nelson Mandela president, Black South Africans entered the country's political mainstream. That year, Shared Interest was established to help South Africa's impoverished communities enter the economic mainstream and make a reality of their hard-won rights. The Small Enterprise Foundation is South Africa's largest and most successful microfinance institution. SEF provides loans beginning at $100 to women who build their businesses by saving and borrowing together.
In Grace Mado, 2002, Mokalawaga William Sia, Tokofan. Sefo into Sigama, Daga 2002, Ile Adaba, Ile Badaba, Valalena, Badabalalena, Palakar, Gaga, Golotachel Dress, Ganana Yasef. Senten Roja Maele. Mugana robanga bangile mugana
Grace used her first loans to build and stock the only convenience shop in her community.
Business yaga ile agwele lagaba kalauri ile ka fitela mo we gija chele de chinyana ba sefo ba lume jompa loni enchi daga rega gulu.
As she put her children through school and repaid her loans, she was able to borrow $1,600 from SEF to buy a used van for her new business, transporting other people's children to school.
Hey, business yaga itu sabato gamada. And itu sabato gamada. And never ignore custom jeri inch.
Good evening. My name is Tim Smith, and I have the privilege of being chair of the board of Shared Interest and welcoming you tonight. Thanks so much for giving us your support for this virtual gala. I want to start off by thanking our co-chairs as well who have joined me tonight. Susan and Regan Pritzker, the Bergman family, and our most generous sponsors, Synergos, Trillium Asset Management, United Methodist Women, and Mary and Jeff Zientz. We also greatly appreciate the hands-on support of our tireless host committee and our talented staff, Martha Brantley, Casey Klein, Donna Katzen, Shakura Shears, John Woodburn, and Sandra Zikalala. We salute you all. 100 years ago, U.S. women celebrated their victory when the 19th Amendment was passed, and they won the right to vote. While this was a major achievement, many states then passed laws that banned African Americans from voting and from other freedoms. Despite black women's active participation in the universal suffrage movement, it took another 45 years to pass the Voting Rights Act, and as we know, that act did not fully remove barriers to black women voters. And so, as we lift up the courage and achievement of Southern Africa's women's leaders, we also recognize that women of color here continue their campaigns to defend their rights and defend their communities, another of our shared interests. This year, as Shared Interest completes our first 25 years and embarks on our new strategic plan, helping to build the power of Southern Africa women, that's one of our top priorities. It is critical as we expand deeper into South Africa and Southern Africa that we protect the ground gained by low-income communities of color. They face the twin challenges of COVID-19 and severe economic hardship. After this evening's first performance, we're going to welcome dinner co-chair Stanley Bergman. Stan is the CEO of Henry Schein, which is one of the leading Fortune 500 companies in developing tests for COVID-19. And Stan, Marion, Paul, Sarah, Eddie, and Sharon Bergman have been members of Shared Interest family for more than 20 years. Thank you so much. Over to you, Stan.
Good evening. It's truly a pleasure to be with everyone here this evening for this special celebration of shared interest. I'm only sorry that we cannot all be together in person. I'm sure all of us would love to be there in person, as we have been for many, many years, as we've enjoyed this special evening, a really special evening for the South African community in New York. We all look forward to the day, hopefully soon, when we'll all be together again, as South Africa and the US continue to face shared challenges and opportunities, especially in this COVID-19 pandemic period. We all appreciate how many opportunities there are for us to work together and learn from each other. South Africa today, and to, of course, a lesser extent its neighbors, finds itself in the grip of a pandemic. In South Africa, despite an early lockdown, the virus erupted again, spreading quickly to major cities and indeed all over the country, cities like Cape Town, Johannesburg, and the surrounding communities. The severe inequality inherited from the colonial and, of course, the apartheid days has left many impoverished communities with insufficient access to water, congested living conditions that prevent social distancing, and, of course, the inability to cope with this pandemic. COVID-19 related economic disruption has cost many South Africans their incomes, their jobs, and of course their lives. And with an official unemployment rate of above 30%, that may rise closer to 50%, according to the African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, South Africa has challenges and needs us. Other countries in the region with younger and less concentrated populations but poorer economies are facing the specter of hunger. And yet, we can learn from South Africa. The country has launched widespread community testing and contact tracing, sending more than 28,000 grassroots healthcare workers door to door, enabling the nation to enhance data gathering to identify, isolate, and treat the sick. Remarkable what South Africa has achieved. South Africa has enhanced social grants and unemployment benefits. Without these efforts, the situation would be far worse. In admiration for South Africa, the work that the South Africans are doing to combat the tremendous negative impact of this virus, not only on healthcare, but on the economy, and of course, shared interest. The work you are doing to help South Africans is remarkable. Now I'd like to have my wife, Marion, spend a few minutes talking to the audience tonight. Thank you.
Shared interests, vital work to provide support for businesses, farms, and cooperatives, particularly those led by women of color, supports the extraordinary strength and leadership of the region's women by better enabling them to protect the lives and livelihoods of their families and communities. It is now my distinct privilege to introduce one of Southern Africa's outstanding women, working to raise women's voices, uphold their rights, and enable them to transform their lives and communities. She formerly served South Africa as a Member of Parliament, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister of Minerals and Energy, and Deputy President. Today, she serves as the esteemed Executive Director of UN Women, a platform she has brilliantly used to build the He for She campaign, galvanizing young men and women to build a social movement through which men and boys become agents of change for the achievement of gender equality. Please join me in welcoming a woman I am proud to call my friend and role model, from Zili Lamba Nyuka.
Thank you, Shared Interest. Thank you, Donna, for everything that you've done for Southern Africa. Women in Southern Africa have played a significant role at this time when things are so hard. They have been shouldering the fight against the virus. They have been addressing food insecurity. They have been addressing gender-based violence, and women entrepreneurs have also been fighting to save their businesses. Thank you for being part of the struggle in Southern Africa and helping to make the region a better place.
An hour from Cape Town in Franschhoek, a new business, One Vision, started up in April 2012 with a loan guaranteed by Shared Interest and technical support from Tembani. Today, this small business is creating jobs and a new product, vegetable crisps. Business has already more than doubled its number of employees, most of whom are between the ages of 18 and 25, and is working to increase production from 300 to 800 cartons of crisps a week.
One Vision gives us an opportunity to rebuild our lives. I especially have a lot of young kids inside the factory that I want to redevelop to become leaders in the community. The big thing with this is you have to be positive. I try to help them to think ahead. They already start thinking for themselves.
En ek het soms wat gaan die week kry en vandag het ek die weer gekry. Sy het nou gesê ek moet kom, ek het na Gala toe gekom, ons het 'n onderhoud gehad. En hy het gevra vir my man om wat wil ek doen en wat sal ek graag wil doen in die fabriek en so. En ek het hom gesê en elke bietjie help. Ek het geleer of het nou voor 5 jaar is of 10 jaar, ik ga het doen en ik wil het doen. Dat is mijn droom. Ik wil succes maken. Want in ons community verval ik kennis.
If One Vision grows, then you can get a farm that say you come to plant veggies for us. So there's another 10 or 12, 20 people getting a job. From that, then he can then supply other factories as well, and more people is going to get a job. So there's a lot of improvement if One Vision grows.
Friends, as you've just seen, Shared Interest partners with some indomitable Southern African women. And we're still going strong, having benefited more than 2.3 million low-income Black Southern Africans without losing a cent of any investors' money since 1994. During the pandemic, we are working remotely to continue to provide technical and moral support through our colleagues on the ground, Tembani and the Graça Machel Trust, to help small businesses, farms, and cooperatives succeed and move their country's financial institutions to lend to them. Heartfelt thanks to all who make this work possible. But it's not easy. In addition to the virus, our clients confront lockdowns and recessions that disrupt their technology and supplies or temporarily close their businesses, that undermine their bank's client services, that leave agencies struggling to provide them with emergency benefits, and leave communities that can't afford to buy their products. In this pandemic, our model really matters because it mobilizes countries' own resources by guaranteeing local loans to otherwise excluded Black borrowers. With travel and international assistance uncertain, Southern Africa must rely even more on its own institutions to help these lifeline businesses survive, grow, and sustain their communities. The last 25 years' progress is at stake. Should clients like Black worker-owned farms fail and be forced to sell their hard-won land back to wealthy white farmers at bargain basement prices. The future is also at stake. Southern Africa's ability to rebuild, jumpstart the continent's recovery, and transform its economies into engines of justice. We invite you to continue this journey with us. And welcome back, Mako and Lovu.
Felicia Mabuza Suttle has hosted the Shared Interest Gala for the last 5 years, but tonight we're honoring her for her own leadership in South Africa's transition to democracy and the spirit of Ubuntu. This is her country's profound concept of humanity that means I am because we are. As a young woman in Soweto, she established a cultural center to shelter township youth threatened by apartheid police and nurture their confidence and creativity. She came to the U.S. in 1974 to study and launch her career in journalism and mass communications, but returned home when Nelson Mandela was released from prison. Revered anti-apartheid leader Adelaide Tambo noted, quote, "The miracle of the birth of democracy in our country started as a dream. Felicia responded to Nelson Mandela's call to come back and develop this dream into a flame of reality." She hosted the Felicia Show, which former Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool called a weekly mass counseling session for South Africans on how to reach out and forgive during our time of transition from apartheid to democracy. Felicia returned to the U.S. in 2004 as a philanthropist and entrepreneur. Her company, Leadership Success International, specializes in executive leadership training. Her books, Dare to Dream and Live Your Dream, continue her calling to mentor and inspire young South Africans to pursue dreams of their own. Let's have a look.
Felicia Mabuza Sattle was born in Sophiatown and grew up in Dube, Soweto during the height of apartheid. She fondly refers to the township as the dusty and dangerous streets of Soweto. Mabuza Sattle started a dance academy aimed at keeping young people out of the street and later started a career as a radiographer and later a reporter at the banned World newspaper, which is now called The Sowetan. She left South Africa for the USA to study towards a degree in mass communication in 1974. After accomplishing a lifelong dream, armed with her undergraduate and graduate degrees, she went on to work in corporate America. In 1992, she heeded a clarion call by South Africa's first democratically elected president, Nelson Mandela. The late former president pleaded with all talented South Africans living abroad to return home during his historic visit to the USA in 1991. Mabuza Sattle says she took the invitation personally because she wanted to serve and be part of the country's nation-building efforts. It was a momentous period in South African history, and she felt she could contribute in the country's transition from apartheid to democracy. Upon her return, the veteran television host hit the ground running with elegance and style. Just 6 days after she landed, Mabuza Sattle found herself standing in front of the cameras as host of South Africa's first talk show, Top Level, which later changed its name to The Felicia Show. It didn't take long for The Felicia Show to steal the hearts of many who watched returning exiles and political prisoners share their difficulties with reacquainting themselves with life in South Africa. Her work on the show earned her the Queen of Talk title and paved the way for a new generation of television hosts. The show is lauded for having facilitated dialogue and helped ease racial tensions at a critical time in the country's history. When asked to reflect on the show, the television icon says she is proud of the effect the program had on that generation. Even though she returned to the US, she never cut ties with South Africa. As she always say, "My body is in America, but my heart is in South Africa." Mabuza Sattle is now co-owner of Leadership Success International, based in Atlanta, which works with organizations in leadership and communication. The Trailblazer also provides inspirational talks to the youth aimed at preparing the next generation of leaders. Asked about retirement, she says she will not retire, but that she is on preferment, doing only what she prefers to do, to impact the lives of others.
I am honored and proud to present Shared Interest Ubuntu Award to Felicia Mabuza Sattle.
Good evening. No one and nothing should stop you from realizing your dream. This is a message I always share with young people all the time. So tonight, it is about a dream come true for me again. What an honor it is to accept this prestigious Ubuntu Award from Shared Interest. I accept this award on behalf of all the little girls and boys who are growing up in Soweto. I accept this award in the spirit of Ubuntu, humility and humanity, the spirit that exudes Nelson Mandela. Thank you, Donna Katzen and my shared interest family, for making the dreams of this little girl from Soweto a reality. I used to stand at that gate. I remember growing up in Soweto as a little girl, staring aimlessly while trying to imagine a life beyond Soweto, dreaming about being somebody one day. So to those young people growing up in the townships and rural areas, I say, never give up on your dreams. Dare to dream big. I used to have a dance academy for youth in Soweto in the 70s. It was aimed at keeping young people out of the streets during the height of apartheid. We used to sing and dance to reach out and touch. Reach Out and Touch even became the signal tune to my talk show. We brought black and white South Africans together to talk after 40 years of living apart and in fear of each other during apartheid. We talked, we cried, we laughed, we sang, we danced. Our slogan was, we got South Africa talking. Ubuntu is what we need today in America and the world at large as we confront two biggest pandemics, that is COVID-19 and racism. To borrow from Congressman John Lewis, let us make good trouble. Let us make necessary trouble and right the wrongs that plague our world. Let us make the world love America again. Let us redeem the soul of America. Vote. Thank you.
Ghana.
Okay, friends, we'd like to welcome Shared Interest Board member Diane Keefe, an advisor to the Social Enterprise Bennett Stream and Finance Committee Chair of the Quaker UN Office Board of Directors right here in New York City. Now, she's going to introduce you to a young Malawian entrepreneur she met on Shared Interest delegation last summer. Now, please remember to stick around for the after party. That's happening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's party. Let's party. Let's party.
Good evening. I'm going to tell you the story of Lily Musaya. She's a vibrant 32-year-old Malawian woman with a 9-year-old daughter. She decided to become a commercial seed broker. She began by purchasing legume seeds from local women smallholder farmers. Legumes typically are viewed as women's crops. They're drought resistant and they nourish the soil and are high in protein. As climate change impacts farming in Malawi, a shift to drought-resistant seed is imperative for farming communities like Lily's. When Lily first started her seed brokering business, her prospective clients were reluctant to commit their harvest to her. They didn't always trust that Lily would have the money to pay them at harvest time. She was young, a woman, and unproven after all. Then Lily joined African Women in Agribusiness, AWAB, an organization of women seed entrepreneurs launched by Shared Interest partner the Graça Machel Trust. AWAB received its first commercial loan with a shared interest guarantee in 2019. Lily joined AWAB too late to receive credit herself. AWAB's president, Dr. Grace Malindi, an agricultural expert, decided to help Lily. Dr. Malindi lent Lily a portion of Dr. Malindi's own borrowings. With the proceeds from this first loan, Lily proved herself reliable and became a trusted supplier to her customers. It's the first loan I've ever gotten in my life, Lily said. Just getting access to the financial world gave me confidence. Lily used the money to buy seed from 54 women farmers and grain from 100 more. Now, she says, they trust me and are happy to get a fair price. She also hired 60 women to do grading of seed. Another AWAB member helped her find PPE and a large warehouse where workers could spread out safely while grading seeds. She says AWAB's social and financial support have made me brave. Today, Lily's network of women farmers sell her more of their produce. This year, 60 tons of beans. She has also won respect and established networks of seed breeders and buyers who are willing to work with her, even if she is a small supplier, a young entrepreneur, and a woman. Lily is a change agent and a social entrepreneur, helping her smallholder farmer customers make business decisions and investment that will help them meet the challenges of climate change, resulting in resiliency for themselves and their families. Lily's advice to other young women prospective seed entrepreneurs: get started on your own with a hectare or two and a contract with a company. Associate with people who've been in the business longer. You'll find people willing to help young people starting out. Take the risk and just get your foot in the door. You will realize it's not that difficult. As Shared Interest broadens our work with African and especially women farmers, we're prepared to partner with groups like AWAB and the young women entrepreneurs like Lily, who are their future. Thank you for supporting our work.
Good evening. My name is Alonzo Fulgham, a proud member of Shared Interest Board of Trustees. I don't know about you, but I'm inspired by women like Lily. As you are aware, Shared Interest is working with women to build skills, identify opportunities to access finance, open new markets, which empower women to feed hungry communities and build dignity and hope. As an international development practitioner for over 3 decades, I know personally that the most impactful work empowers people, one person at a time, people who have been excluded and exploited from market participation and access to credit for decades, if not centuries. Most unfortunately, especially women. Simply put, it's the kind of work that builds organizations and institutions, the kind of work that lifts voices, builds their collective power, and moves the banks to finally lend to them. I joined Shared Interest Board, committed to addressing racial and gender inequality and to end economic injustice. This year, those priorities have come into even sharper focus with the murder in our own country of George Floyd, Rayshard Brown, Breonna Taylor, and so many more. We have a long way to go, and additional interventions are needed to combat the legacy of historical injustices. We particularly support the countries of Southern Africa, where their people have risen up against plunder and pillage to build new nations rooted in human rights for all people. It is impressive that Shared Interest has benefited 2.3 million Black farmers, workers, entrepreneurs, and homeowners in Southern Africa. Shared Interest has recently sharpened our focus on supporting climate change through adaptation and solutions. The daily achievements of our partners on the ground teach us valuable lessons about commitment, creativity, and changes that are needed across the globe and in our own atrophied communities. Lessons learned are that social economic insecurity is not an inhibitor to greatness. That institutional change is possible. That type of community is the bedrock of power, and more importantly, women will drive this transformation. And the COVID-19 pandemic is also a time when shared interest work is more vital than ever. As communities on the front lines, their farmers and their small businesses are often all that stand between disaster and the future, between hunger and hope. So I'm asking you to join us here and now, since nobody bought a ticket or a table for this event. And we all have been enjoying the music and the presentation so far, yes? To add a little more spice to the evening, there's a great after party to follow. I hope to see you all there. So I have an ask, of course. In these times, Shared Interest needs your support to continue this great work. You can donate by clicking the embedded link below or visit www.sharedinterest.org/donate. And please be as generous as you can. You will be empowering people to survive this tumultuous period in a history and help lay the critical foundation for more just and equitable communities when the pandemic ends. This is the time to be very generous to Shared Interest and the women of South Africa, and more importantly, for a worthy cause that empowers women. Thank you for your time this evening.
I was lucky because when I was in high school, I got connected with some people who were already at the University of Witwatersrand, which was the main university in Johannesburg, the city I grew up in. And they were involved in politics, in sort of what we would like to call liberation politics. So from when I was 16, 17, I began to be very engaged with that. And although there wasn't much space for doing that at high school, I used to have some arguments with my teachers, and it wasn't really regarded as a very good thing to argue with your teachers. Nothing terrible happened to me while I was at school. My headmistress once told me, Jennifer, you're an outstanding girl, but you stand out in the wrong direction. And I think she meant, I kept on asking too many hard questions, and I kept on complaining about the systems that were in place.
When I first met Jennifer Davis in 1990, little did I know that this white South African woman, small in stature, highly principled, fiercely courageous yet curiously shy, would become one of my best examples of what leadership with integrity looks like. Over the years, Jennifer shared with me that when she attended Wits University in Johannesburg in her youth, she wanted to study sustainable development, but they didn't have any major like that back then. She was always ahead of her time. This brilliance, vision, and unwavering commitment to justice would compel her co-workers at ACOA to insist that Jennifer follow George Hauser as the executive director. Throughout her years of leadership, Jennifer knew how to bring out the best in all of us, especially Dumisani. And after Namibia, then South Africa achieved freedom from white supremacy, Jennifer championed the tangibles of freedom, economic justice. Whether it was canceling Africa's debt, fighting cuts that would jeopardize inoculations for children, or securing antiretrovirals for Africans who had contracted HIV. So when her friend and protest buddy Donna Katzen launched Shared Interests, Jennifer joined, committed to the mission of supporting South Africa's women and men, secure loans that would generate economic freedom and sustainability. Jennifer would regale me with stories of the incredible people she met at Shared Interest site visits in Southern Africa and how impressed she was in their problem-solving skills, hope, and resilience. Jennifer loved the fact that Shared Interest was changing lives for the better. In Shared Interests, the young student at Wits had finally come full circle.
I first met Jennifer in 1968, 2 years after she went into exile. She was my friend, family, comrade, my mentor and one-time boss, the person I, like so many, went to for counsel and political clarity. Jen was an activist since high school. To quote John Lewis, she got into good trouble that forced her out of South Africa and into her determined work against apartheid from the moment she arrived in New York. Her good trouble contributed to apartheid's demise in 1994. For this, the South African government recognized her with the Order of the Companions of O.R. Tambo. As executive director of the American Committee on Africa, Jennifer steered the divestment movement that demanded that U.S. companies and banks withdraw their economic support for apartheid. Her work helped drive the passage of economic sanctions by the U.S. Congress in 1986. But her indispensable contribution was the insistence that policy did not change from the top. It was the pressure from the base, when faith-based communities, unions, campuses, state and local governments, and so many more stood firm and said, enough. It was here that her strategic brilliance was the most evident. Although small in stature, shy by nature, at her center, Jennifer was as fierce as a lion. She will be remembered for her significant contributions to the struggles in Southern Africa, in the Portuguese colonies, and to human rights in general. She will be remembered, too, for her strong principles, her generosity, and her caring, warm, and loving soul. We miss you, Jennifer, every day. Hambakashli.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will watch a clip of the work that Shared Interest is doing in Malawi in partnership with the Graça Machel Trust, the project that introduced us to Lily just a few minutes ago. And after that, we will welcome Mrs. Machel, one of Africa's most formidable forces for women's empowerment and leadership and children's rights. Mrs. Machel may be the only woman who has been the first lady of 2 countries as the wife of first Samora Machel and then Nelson Mandela, a former freedom fighter in Mozambique and the country's first Minister of Education. She is the Chancellor of the University of Cape Town, a founding member of the Elders, and a member of the UN Secretary General's Sustainable Development Goals Advocacy Group. In 2010, she founded the Graça Machel Trust to focus on women's economic and financial empowerment, food security, education for all, and good governance. We are honored to welcome Graça Machel.
More than 80% of Malawians are smallholder farmers. Women are responsible for the majority of agricultural labor, in addition to childcare, food preparation, and housekeeping. 84% of these families experience food insecurity each year. They are especially vulnerable to climate change and other factors that reduce yields at harvest time. Poor quality seed is another reason for meager harvests. Malawi has a shortage of certified seed, especially for crops grown by women. The Seeds of Resilience project will help solve the shortage of quality seed for traditional women's crops. With support from Shared Interest, a new entity called African Women in Agribusiness, or AWAB, will empower women entrepreneurs, improve the incomes of hundreds of women smallholder farmers, and establish a role for local producers in Malawi's seed market.
The benefits of working with women in the group is that you benefit from economies of scale, especially when you want to reach the export market. But also working as a collective is helpful because of the joint and several liability. If I don't do well, my friends pick me up. Next time I'll pick them up. So that's like working with the sisterhood, which helps each other socially as well as economically.
Guarantees allow women to enter the formal financial system and become bankable. As women obtain and repay loans, they establish credit histories. Eventually, they are able to borrow without a guarantee. In the process, banks learn how to serve women borrowers. In Malawi, AWA will be a trailblazer, opening doors for female entrepreneurs in the future.
Dear friends, greetings from my home country of Mozambique. COVID has shattered any sense of security we had in our tried and tested ways of living. It is giving us the opportunity to emerge from the uncertainties of this period with the redesigned systems and ways of being which are much more resilient and resistant to shocks the past year has brought us, particularly in Africa. As we reimagine our societies, we need not only to build back better, but to build back differently. We have an unprecedented window as a global family to tackle food insecurity, hunger, and malnutrition once and for all. As you labor within your spheres of influence and mobilize your resources for economic recovery, please work to strengthen the ecosystems of support for smallholder, family, and subsistence farmers. Take decisive action to involve youth in agriculture. Rebuild sustainable indigenous food systems. Increase public financing for food security. And last, but definitely not least, invest in the irreplaceable and strategic place of women in food security. This final recommendation is of the utmost importance. Women are central players in the food chain and key to agricultural output on the continent. As I close, I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to express my gratitude to Shared Interests for their visionary partnership and working hand in hand with Graça Machel Trust to address challenges in food security and promote business for African women in the agricultural sector. We are particularly grateful for your partnership to advance our innovative Africa Food Basket Initiative in Malawi and fortifying our African Women in Agribusiness Network efforts across the continent. Let us work differently to strengthen our food systems and invest in women entrepreneurs so that sorrowful tales of hunger and malnutrition are plagues of the past and written into our annals of history. It is time to turn page. Together, we can recreate a world that is more human-centered, equitable, healthy, and prosperous for us all.
Good evening. I want to take this very special opportunity on behalf of the board, myself, and the extended Shared Interest family around the world to pay tribute to our friend, our founder, our director, our inspirational leader, a force of nature, Donna Katzen. As you know, Donna has led Shared Interests for over a quarter century since our birth and has decided to retire at year end. It is impossible to describe Donna's contribution to shared interest and to the mission, to our work in Southern Africa. But let me attempt the impossible. As our founding executive director, Donna had a huge footprint that has grown year after year. In the early years, it was actually a case of launching and creating a path for us. There was no roadmap. She had to help build it. But Donna unleashed her creativity and, as we know, her endless optimism and her ability to build partnerships in the U.S. and Southern Africa to jumpstart our work. We have always said that Shared Interest was an organization that punched far above our weight. And Donna Katzen made sure that happened. She delivered on that goal. As our leader, she exemplified so many qualities. Profound dedication to our vision of making a difference in people's lives in the Black community in Southern Africa. Endless energy and passion for this work. A special ability to network with a broad cross-section of people, from business to diplomats, donors, religious leaders, folks who just want to learn more about how they could play their part in helping rebuild a just South Africa after apartheid. She's an inspiring writer and speaker, a great juggler of time and tasks, but she's always been laser focused on impact, whether it's the impact that we tried to create in agriculture, in small business, in women's cooperatives or housing, or many other aspects of our combined work in Southern Africa. She has a wonderful way with people, whether it be overseas or in the United States, and a unique blend of skills that could go on and on as we described them. We couldn't have done this work without her and her leadership. So I could go on, but that would just result in a great number of tears. So instead I will say thanks to our founder, our leader, our inspiration and friend. We raise a virtual glass to you to pay tribute. Thank you, Donna.
Good evening. Today we also join the Shared Interest community and all those who have supported South Africa in thanking Donna Katzen for her extraordinary service, dedication, and contributions in making South Africa and the world a better place. Donna is a true social entrepreneur, and her visionary and innovative spirit has brought the work of Shared Interest to new heights. Our family has been honored to support the vital work of Shared Interest to mobilize and empower South Africa's economically disenfranchised communities to sustain themselves, and we sincerely thank Donna for an amazing legacy as the founder of this incredible organization. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you all for these moving words and the gift of walking with you and learning from you for 26 years. This has never been one person's journey, but that of a community on a greater march to make human rights a social and economic reality. I've been privileged to work with tireless, far-sighted board members, staff with such skill and heart, selfless volunteers, investors, and donors whose material and moral support has kept us growing even in trying times. And we've been graced by our South African and Southern African partners who have so generously shared their wisdom, courage, and love. Together you have taught me Ubuntu. You have bestowed on me the honor of my life. And as I prepare to retire, I know Shared Interest's vital work will proceed under dynamic new leadership, and that you, its visionary and valiant community, will carry it forward.
Ulindlela wemamgobhozi unyana wam haleluya shada namhla ulindlela welamama yabusa suba nomona nyana wam uthathi bengingazi kyambona umakoti unyana wam yeah ujongile this time my heart fell usesoste usemshadweni kyasha space. Oh, sensadwe, you know I'm shada. Baby city, oh yeah, I'm so. Baby city, hange gashate fulite. Baby, I'm composing fulite. Hello, Mona, fulite. Baby, I'm composing fulite.
Hi, I'm Susan Pritzker. I'm a long-time supporter and partner of Shared Interest, the amazing organization that we are gathered here to celebrate. Soon, we will be hearing from two incredible women, our final honoree, Sophia Williams-DeBrain, who played a crucial role in galvanizing a movement of women which ultimately brought apartheid in South Africa to its knees, and Alicia Garza, who will present our final award to Miss DeBrain, and who has herself emerged as a visionary movement leader right here, right now. It's clear that despite the separation of continents and decades, these women are deeply connected. They are connected by their unwavering commitment to organizing and movement building. They are connected by their bold vision. And perhaps most strikingly, they are connected by their courageous leadership. They are our torch bearers. Through their courageous leadership, both women have shown the world what strategic, bold, visionary organizing can do. I am humbled by and grateful for the opportunity to thank them for with gratitude that we all feel for the work they have accomplished and for showing us the way forward. Because though apartheid may have fallen, liberation is still a dream, and there is still a lot of road ahead. Alicia Garza has been on the front lines of our own movement for liberation as a co-creator of Black Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter Global Network, and as the founder of the Black Futures Lab, which she built to provide critical data and infrastructure to strengthen Black political power. Additionally, she serves as the Strategy and Partnerships Director for the National Domestic Workers Alliance, a powerful political voice for millions of domestic workers across the country. She is also a co-founder of Supermajority, a new home for women's political power. She writes a monthly piece for Marie Claire and has a book coming out soon, tentatively titled, How to Turn a Hashtag into a Movement. She has asked me to warn you, however, hashtags don't start movements, people do, as we can all clearly see from the lived examples of Sophia DeBrain and Alicia Garza. We're about to see a short video, and following that, we will hear from Alicia, who will present our final award. Thank you.
At the march, we sang the song Batinti Bafasi, which says, Stridum, you've struck a rock. You've struck the woman, you've struck a rock, you'll die. I always thought that I'll go into education, into teaching, but I also noticed around me the poverty of our people in the community. There were all these laws that were impacting on the lives of women that prevented them from moving around freely. And so that day we entered the Holy Grail, and it was like us being cheeky. We have dared to enter it. There was a plan that if the police did come, the 20,000 women would bend down and pray, and they would have had to arrest everybody. They came in that disciplined manner, and then they marched gracefully up those steps of the Union building. And I felt a lump in my throat when I looked at this large army of women, dignified women, courageous women. And in my younghood, I felt so humbled to be part of such bravery. I don't think words can express how I feel about that time and now. And I think women today, wherever they are working, I think the women of that era opened the way for them.
Hi, I'm Alicia Garza, principal at the Black Futures Lab and the Black to the Future Action Fund. I'm also the co-creator of the Black Lives Matter Global Network. In 1956, at the age of 17, Sophia Williams DeBrain, a young textile union organizer, and 3 other women led a 20,000 woman strong march to Pretoria that helped change the course of South Africa's history. South Africans refer to her as Ma Sophie, one of the mothers of the nation. Black people and movements for change in the US and South Africa have long seen our pain, our power, and our potential mirrored in each other's struggles and each other's victories. Black mothers who feared losing their children to the apartheid police in South Africa are not different from the Black mothers in the US today who stand up to protect their own children from the police in our own streets. The continuing campaigns for human rights and for justice in both countries continues to be our most fundamental shared interest. As many remember, the rallying cry for that prophetic Women's March in 1956 was the now famous statement, "Now that you have touched the women, you have struck a rock." It is my pleasure and honor to present Sophia Williams DeBrain with the Imbokodo Award as a pillar, a foundation of South Africa's struggle, and as a rock.
Thank you, Alicia Garza, for your gracious, kind remarks. It is indeed an honor to be a recipient of the Imbokodo Award. But to me, it is more than an individual recognition. It is a collective remembrance of the many extraordinary, strong, brave, and tenacious women that went before and served alongside me. Many women risked their lives for the multiple freedoms we enjoy today. To name a few are the likes of Ida Mtwana, Helen Joseph Lillian Ngoyi, Raima Musa Ray Simons, Amanaidu, Bertha Goa, Lillian Diedrichs, and Ruth Mompati. At the time of the march, I was a young, energetic 18-year-old. I soon understood the power and value of intergenerational alliance in pursuing and defending our mission against oppression of race, class, and gender. And I am proud of the efforts and progress my generation have made. We have, however, so much more to do. Our mobilization strategies were devoid of the technological advances now at the disposal of the younger generation of women to cultivate even more meaningful partnerships. And it is my hope that the present generation will not merely maintain the gains despite the challenge. This generation has an obligation to quantumly advance the struggle for women's rights. In the context of COVID-19, I have been saddened by reports of the high levels of domestic and gender-based violence. Some of the unintended consequences of some of the preventative measures put in place by governments across the world to flatten the curve of infection. This is my message of solidarity and to urge the current generation of women to be resolute about our new struggles and to guard the gains made by the generations that preceded mine, as well as the advances my generation made. And I have often said, the younger generation needs to pick up where the older generation has left off. Therefore, you younger women are encouraged to pick up the baton, to lead today's challenges. You must take heart from my generation's efforts. I wish to applaud and celebrate Alicia Gaza as a founder and her co-founders of the movement Black Lives Matter. It reminds me of our own struggles, irrespective whether each of our struggles are unique. For us Black women in South Africa, the challenge we faced in apartheid South Africa was oppression of our rights, of our civil liberties, and we could not stand by and watch this. And secondly, as oppressed women, we had the power of numbers, of ideas, of knowledge and skills. And we also had the power of our own and collective agency. The power that women have must never be underestimated. So while we in South Africa use mass action, in other struggles women use campaigns, set up projects, programs, etc. Finally, what is common is that women refuse to sit back and be observers. They take action and have an experience of the women who have come before them. So using the analysis of our power, by refusing to let the status quo of inequality prevail, and being innovative, and being informed by our own peculiar histories and challenges. In conclusion, I'd like to thank Shared Interests for the noble work they engage in by easing the burden of women's lives across Africa where it matters most. The concern of mothers of their children's welfare and thus what Share Interests is doing across Africa is infinitely admirable and deserving of my support. I thank you.
She carries the world in a womb with no fear of pain and worry. She hungers and thirsts to feed the world. Woman, she is covered with strength and dignity, with more than jewels and rubies. She covers the world with love. Oh, woman. She speaks wisdom and faith. She supreme. She wears a crown of glory. Oh, woman, 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 she opens her arms to keep, to lend and take care of the poor. She feeds the world with laughter. Oh, woman. She is covered with strength and dignity, worth more than rubies. Oh, woman, 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 power to the African woman. She wears a crown of dignity. Woman, 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 Malama Kosia, Malibongwe, woman, woman, Hika Malama Kosia.
Good evening, I'm Danny Glover, a proud member of the Shared Interest Board of Advisors. We've been doing this work together for more than 25 years. The people of South and Southern Africa and the U.S. have long mirrored each other's suffering and struggles, vision and courage, whether it's defiance movement against unjust laws in South Africa in the 50s, or the Civil Rights Movement, or the Freedom Charter, or the United Democratic Front. We have struggled together, whether it's organizing our communities and marching on our streets, and we're still marching. Today, with campaigns of racial, economic, and gender justice reaching new urgency in our streets, whether in Minneapolis or Malawi, California or Cape Town, Atlanta or Pretoria, once again, we feel the depth of our shared interests. As we confront the coronavirus on both sides of the ocean, its toll on human livelihood, we are moving still together. And tonight we celebrate the power of women, sung and unsung, who protest publicly, privately keep the communities together, who shape policy and solve the daily problems of family health and survival, okay, who do not have the luxury of abandoning hope. We urge you to continue the march with Southern African women and shared interests on what Nelson Mandela called the long walk to freedom.
Friends, Banganevami, I've got some news for you. This brings our program to a close. Thank you for celebrating with Shared Interest tonight and helping us honor heroines, past and present, who have left their fingerprints on history. Thank you too for supporting this ongoing, difficult, and transformative work. We invite you to visit Shared Interest's website for further information. My name is Makon Jovu. It's been a real treat to be with you tonight. Now stay with us because the after party featuring DJ AQ is also coming up. I'll see you really soon. Bye.
You're looking at the next big thing. Hey, you're looking at the next big thing. Thank God for auto-tune. Now everybody can sing. Hey, now everybody can sing. Hey, I said, you're looking at the next big thing. Hey, you're looking at the next big thing. Thank God for auto-tune.
auto-tune, now everybody can sing.
Thank God.
Everybody can sing.
Education is key to success. I'm big lock in the door. I'm the type to leave you in awe, or give you an awe. Flow, turn them seas into ghosts. No ectoplasm, rumor has it. Sick flow, pressure has it. Music is I'm trying to pass it to my seed. Hope it grows into a tree. Oh, you didn't know I represent the greatest MCs that didn't blow. BMK, big still, lie still. Do it regardless, cause articulate what I got is lyrically. Home is where the hardest, cause I'm heartless when I leave home temporarily. 3D shades on, the future's getting dead to me. Wanna listen to my heart? I'll give you the song of a blind man can rock shades. A deaf man deserves. Hey, it's only fair. Fresh Prince, Rookie of the Year. Not a part of the dream team, but my team dream too. Mic check 1, 2. Do this forever. If not forever, then I'm 3,000 years. She told me, cry me a river. Gave her 1,000 tears. I said,
you're looking at the next big thing.
Hey, I said,
you're looking at the next big thing.
Thank God for auto-tune, now everybody can sing. Hey, now everybody can sing. Hey, I said,
you're looking at the next big thing.
Hey,
you're looking at the next big thing. Thank God for auto-tune, now everybody can sing.
Thank God,
everybody can sing.
I said, it's all good. Right about now, sitting with this pen thinking what to write about now. Flow speaks in tongues like Goria Karabada Rabasuke. Praise God cause he brought a brother this far. I came to the realization that you ain't gotta be popular to populate the hip population. Hip hop's been waiting for resuscitation. This is after school, not recess. We bless, the God we praise. It still was grace, I earned my wage. As I bash this beat with punchlines that make you flinch, like you're trying to jerk your eyelashes. This is a Prince masterpiece, pass the piece to beat. They say pull up your socks, I'd rather tie them to my knees. It's probably the last time you hear a flow like this. They yelling pressure P, but I don't wanna take a ironicness. Is that an actual word? I won't rap about it, Yoni, that's an actual bird. Man, I said, you're looking at the
next big thing.
Hey, I said, you're looking at the
next big thing.
Thank God for auto-tune, now everybody can sing. Now everybody can sing. Hey, I said, you're looking at the
next big thing.
Hey, you're looking at the
next big thing.
Thank God.